Mr. Chair, we are live and recording. You can begin the meeting whenever you wish.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, June 17th, 2026. We just want to, before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that the open part of the meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the Township YouTube channel. And seeing that that is good and we're all set to go with the recordings, I would like to call the roll, and please raise your hand and state your presence when I call your name. Mayor Watson.
Good morning.
Deputy Mayor Nelson. Councillor Landsman. Councillor Johnson. And myself, Councillor Watt, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. We have pretty decent agenda this morning. Excuse me. So with a quorum of a committee in attendance, I will call the meeting to order at 10:02 a.m. Our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the lands and that are part of the 1818 Treaty 20 and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe bands of the Great Ojibwe Nation. We offer our gratitude to the Ojibwe for their care and knowledge of the lands on which we work, live, and enjoy. May we honor and respect their teachings and our treaty obligations as we grow together. And everyone's had a chance to look over the agenda for today. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, could I please have an adoption of today's agenda? The only difference being that Ash will be presenting on behalf of Mike today. Mayor Watson, Councillor Landsman, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. All right, moving right along. Delegation, petitions, and presentations. So we have the draft building, planning, and economic development service review. Bill White, sir, if you want to take the podium, and you will need to turn the microphone on, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor Watson, members of the council, Mr. Chair, staff. It's a pleasure to be here today, presenting the results of our analysis into your building planning services and looking into the economic development sector that may or may not emerge with as part of the services in the township. The first slide is our agenda for today. I'll be as detailed or as short as you'd like me to be. I'm happy to take questions throughout, although if you'd like, I can go through the presentation and take them after. We'll just play it by ear. So that's my introduction. We'll go through the background research that's been in the report and on the township website for some time now. Some questionnaires that were done, the 27 interviews that I did with people around the table and in the community. Talk a bit about the open house, the fees analysis that was required as part of the RFP, and the recommendations that come out of the study. Where we are right now, of course, is this is the first presentation of it in a somewhat complete fashion. There's a series of recommendations in there that I'm hoping to get some feedback from council and staff and people in the community that participated. Next slide is just a little bit about myself. I've celebrated my 40th year in this business this month. I started as a planner in Owen Sound. I managed a building and planning department, was a director of community services, and a CAO for 12 years. And I've been doing this consulting work for about 6. So I've kind of been around and kind of seen a lot. I found that helpful in looking at the department and the way things are operating. Just a little bit on the background research that we did. And one of the points I make in the report is that there's a lot going on in the department and a lot of people doing a lot of things, and a lot of things happen without any controversy. So there's many building permits. You can see from that chart that on the next slide, you know, it's between 150 and 200 and some each year that go out. The vast majority of which are processed normally and without any issues. So I think council and staff should take some solace in that the vast majority of things happen just fine without a lot of public concern. That's not to say it isn't there, because you all have heard it and expressed it to me. And it was expressed by the public to me as well. The next slide shows the planning applications. Again, busy department, between 30 and almost 50 a year. Most in the area of consents. Consents, just for a little bit of background information, there's not just the application and the report and the pre-consultation and all that stuff. There's also certificates of consent to be issued, conditions to be met, and things to be fulfilled. So the fact that there's a lot of consent work is it's not just the number of consents, but all the follow-up that comes into actually implementing one. The next slide is the budget. You're obviously very familiar with this. The planning budget has declined from 2021 for a variety of reasons. And the building department budget has increased, not dramatically in a sense. Of course, building fees by law are covered, or are to cover the cost of that service. And I found that the look that I had at the budgets that it was doing, so I think in 2025 it didn't cover the cost of the service. But what happens is when there's a surplus, that goes into reserve, and when there isn't a surplus, then it's pulled off the reserve to cover that. The treasurer has all sorts of responsibilities under the legislation to collect the fees and report on them and so forth. The next slide is a little bit about the economic context that we're in. Obviously, what's going on internationally, nationally, the province affects things here, just like it does everywhere else in our smaller communities. We see unemployment reasonably high at over 6%. CMHC, Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation, is talking about slow growth in housing, decreasing unemployment, and hopefully home sales increasing. The legislative changes are numerous. They're listed there. You can see the number of bills that your staff has been, and you have been forced to deal with. In the report, I also noticed the nine ERO, environmental registry changes that have come forward. 9 of them, including one that came out during the publication of the report on AMPs, or fees for and charges for zoning infractions. So that's interesting, and one that's been adopted, which I haven't even had a chance to go through, and that has to do with standardized official plans, which I think is probably what's delayed the county official plan being adopted, and hence that not being adopted, there's the policies that apply to the township are in limbo to some degree. And of course, the update to your zoning bylaw must follow that. So these changes have placed the township, like many other communities, in a state of flux. And I would say that that's contributed to the unease, I guess to some degree, and the lack of clarity in another way that sometimes staff experience and sometimes that you may experience. For the purposes of the review, I'm noting that probably moderate construction levels for 2026, maybe recovered growth in 2027. And with any luck, the legislative changes to the Planning Act have peaked, and maybe we won't have so many. I've never seen it in my 40 years quite like that before. Questionnaires, I won't go through a lot of that detail that was presented at the open house. I think there's appetite for change, and I brought forward some ideas in the recommendations to do that. At the open house, We held it here. I hosted it. Deputy Mayor was here, Councillor Lansman as well. Probably number of people kind of changed from 4 or 5 at the start to close to 20, maybe at the end. We sat around and talked. It was pretty productive. After that, I got some emails. The notes of that open house were in the report. Again, it forms part of what was my analysis in the recommendations. The next slide on interviews. I did 27 interviews. Actually, my math is quite bad in that slide, but 10 were in person, I believe, 2 by phone and 15 by Teams. Interviewed everyone in here, I think, possibly, except for maybe actually some of the media. Talked to the Cottage Association, many others. And I want to say everyone was quite forthcoming. I think your staff, from the first person that met me when I first came here to Martina, all the people who helped me, CAO, department heads, all were fantastic, very accommodating. I sat in that front room for 2 or 3 days, and the way the people are handled when they come into your counter, you should be proud of. And I say that without reservation. When I was a CAO for 12 years, I always liked to sit in the front. My office was always right there because you could hear what was going on, and I think it's working quite well up there. So despite some concerns that you've all expressed, I guess my point is that there are good things happening, and even through the feedback loop, I did get positive things to me about service. I did get a lot of follow-up emails from the interviews on a range of topics. I even got to experience some of the angst that you're dealing with on your new building, which was somewhat outside the scope of my investigations, but I can appreciate the kinds of challenges you're all dealing with right now. Like the questionnaire, really, and like you can see in the report, the issues are pretty straightforward. It's funny that when you sit down across from someone in an interview, how much more, let's put it this way, how much less dramatic it is than when something is said in the media or in social media, that when they're talking to you and you listen, it's really just about customer service and compliance. And I do see a willingness, and I'll speak about the staff here, to do the job and do the job right. And that goes without saying for all of them. There's a lot of challenges with small municipalities. That's what I worked in all my life career. And getting good people and keeping them, that's important. And nothing in my analysis suggested that there was any reason for changes in that area. You have good people here, they can do the job, and I think with some changes to the way business is done, it can be made to be a service that everyone is much more happy with. As far as the fees, which is I think the next slide, the last increase that you had was in 2023. There are apparently 4 municipalities doing rate studies. We were asked to compare your fees to others, and that chart is in there. It took a lot of time to pull that together. Want to say that fees are kind of all over the place. One of the biggest pattern, I mean all over the place for everyone. One of the patterns I did find, of course, was that your residential and commercial, I think, are based on the cost of construction, whereas most of the others are based on the floor area. One thing about cost of construction here, and it means that those with the most expensive renovations tend to pay more. So I most of you can figure out where a lot of the expenses in the permits is in the cottage renovations. But my suggestion is over time you consider moving to per square foot, but it's neither here nor there, really. The fees are mandated under the Building Code Act and other legislation. And as long as they're covering your service, then, and they're reported in the proper way, I think it should reflect the cost of the service. And it's easier to make that case when it's per square foot. We ran a few typical houses that staff provided to us through based on cost of construction, and we compared it to square footage. And your residential fees are pretty high, but your commercial fees are a little bit high. Your agricultural fees are pretty comparable. Your septic fees are probably low. But my suggestion is you just leave the fees for now. And when the next council is in and you come to budget time, and you look at the year end for 2026, you can start to make some decisions about that. Recommendations. So there's 4 areas of recommendations. Call them technical compliance, council staff relations, customer service, and communication. I'm not going to go into each one. Some of them kind of link to each other. They're separated in the report. In the analysis section, they're kind of highlighted in italics so that you can kind of pick out where they came from. As I said, in terms of technical compliance, most of the applications go through and are approved daily, and there are no issues. The biggest threat, or one of the threats that all of you know about, is the outstanding unclosed permits. There's been efforts made to correct that. I think when the time comes to think about this again, that it's best to communicate with each other about how to do it, and then to communicate with the people who have these permits. Problem with kind of blanket letters and other things that may have happened in the past is that they go to people who may not even be aware there was a permit, or if it was an owner or two before, but they don't realize that they have an interest in having that closed off as well, because there's a liability with that. If real estate transactions are pending, of course, and someone finds there's an unclosed permit, then, you know, who knows where it could take your house price or whatever. So the landowners have just as much an interest. I'd like to suggest that there's a collaborative approach that could be found on dealing with that over time. And that maybe the inspectors, when, you know, identify periods when they could start to take that on. But I think the department head and CAO, deputy CAO could work out a process. I think it needs to be systematic, and I think it needs to be kind of reported on regularly, just because for insurance purposes, I didn't delve into your insurance claims. I don't know about that, but my instinct tells me that you want to have a handle on that moving forward. We all know about joint and several liability, and even if there's 1% blame, for lack of a better word, that can be placed on a municipality, somehow it always finds its way to your pockets at your insurance company. And that goes without saying for every municipality in Ontario and probably Canada and around the world. Code of conduct and customer service standard. There is a mandatory code of conduct under the Building Code Act that you have. It's on your website. And there's customer service standard, and talks about how to respond to complaints and things that come in, and communicating with the public. One of the points I make in the report, and one that's been, for lack of a better word, a struggle over my career in planning and building, is that CBO, Chief Building Official, responsibilities under the Building Code Act have a different boss, in a sense, than perhaps all other aspects of the service. So whereas planning decisions made at the council level or county level, or even some delegated, the CBO has certain obligations to enforce, apply the code in a way that complies with it, and has quite a bit of discretion. And as a planner, that discretion was always not uncomfortable, but always had to make that separation in my mind that as much as I may have wanted to involve myself in some of those details, I really wasn't best qualified to do that, even having done some renovations and tried to take some building code courses. That distinction needs to be made, but on the other hand, that distinction doesn't alleviate staff from complying with your customer service standard. And I'm not saying that they don't, or that they don't believe in customer service at all. I don't believe that at all in the least, but I did hear that there was issues with follow-up, and I understand how that happens with timeframes under the building code and so forth. That's happening everywhere, and it depends on how busy things are. I think if you can somehow merge the code of conduct with customer service standard, communicate with each other better. I talk a little bit up front about oversupplying information. I think that would be helpful in kind of mending some of these little cracks that seem to have appeared from time to time in customer service standard. As I said, I think everyone wants to do the job right, and everyone has been working as hard as they can to do that. So it's a matter of getting on top of things communication wise, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Cloud permit. If I heard about anything a lot, it was that. You've got cloud permit for better or for worse. There are other systems you could change. It's, as far as I know, only being used for building permit processing. One of the issues that we heard a lot about was members of the public. I would include myself in that, not liking to file through cloud permit because we used to just walk in and hand you our papers. It's not the way of the world anymore. What I am seeing in other municipalities, though, is that there's a lot of liaison to help people in the cloud permit. And I think your staff do that as best they can. But if I've heard it once, I've heard it sort of a lot more than once. File your plans through cloud permit. That's how we communicate. I suggest in there that there could be a way to help people through that. And also cloud permit, I'm not entirely sure that you're getting all the functionality out of it. I think the staff have sort of suggested they'd like to get some more training on it. If it's running right, extending it to planning and maybe even bylaw enforcement might be a good idea, but we'll leave that for your department heads, your CAO, and you to talk about into the future. I do make recommendations about in-field electronic devices so that the inspection is the inspection as best we can. We don't have paper records and someone's duplicating their paper records at the office later. I understand. I got paper myself. I interviewed a lot of you with handwritten notes and I transferred that. So I'm the worst offender, but if there's any way of training people to be comfortable speaking into their computer, making the notes on their computer electronically with a device that's supplied by the municipality, and there's training for that, I think that could help with some of the issues that I heard about inspections. Simple things like getting a different inspector on the same job and what had been looked at before and what hadn't, or even being able to pull up if I'm that inspector and I go out and those notes haven't been transferred over yet, and I haven't had a time to chat with someone. Sometimes it increases the challenge on making sure the customer service is seamless. I want to say, I know that you have a large municipality, people travel long distances to do inspections. So it's not always easy to make those communications work. So I think cloud permit, if or whatever system you choose, will help. Once it's working, once people have training, I think it will help and can help. There's a little bit about the zoning checks at plan review. I won't go on a lot about that. It's kind of between your department head and your CAO and the staff to work out. I think that could take some of this time away from the allow the planner to deploy her resources in a different way, similar with pre-consultations, which I found to be quite extensive and thorough. There's probably a way of being a little less thorough. My experience now with the pre-consultations, now that they're no longer mandated, is you can just give point form policy direction and leave it to the consultants to do their work. So I think staff take on a lot in their pre-consultations to try and provide all that information all up front, and it almost feels like the application is going through the process then, when it really goes through the process later. That's coming from them, the applicants and the consultants who I interviewed. Peer reviews, I've watched your council meetings on those. I think it's something I said to your CAO and deputy CAO that that's what's going on across in council chambers all over Ontario. And the province sees it. That's why they're not mandating, or they're probably going to eliminate, if they haven't already, your ability to peer review. I think you need scope peer reviews, like everyone. I think you're not going to have a biologist on staff. The conservation authorities, when they were downscaled, they were out of that business, and I used to get a $400 or $500 review from them. So that's been a download that everyone kind of doesn't understand, and hence why your staff would be wanting more peer reviews. But you're going to have to rely on the experts from the applicants, depending on what the regulations say moving forward. I mentioned briefly the county official plan and the mandated official plan sections. I haven't even had a chance to go through it, but what I read while that was going through is they're basically writing 80% of your official plan. So it'll have to have mandated sections in it. So they'll probably take the counties and rewrite it, or make them rewrite it, which is going to delay it. Now, maybe they won't. I don't know. We'll see how when the rubber hits the road on this one. But I think that's part of the issue, is that official plan is dated, and hence your zoning bylaw is kind of really dated. So you're all a bit of a victim of the circumstances as they've changed at the province. Section 328 of the zoning bylaw, that one has, I gathered, caused lots of conversation at your council meetings, committee of the whole meetings, planning meetings. It causes discussion with the consultants that come to see you and with the staff. I think it used to be sort of more broadly interpreted. It may be more broadly interpreted in other municipalities. I think in my discussions with those in the field about that section, there may be some leeway there. I can understand why one would want to tighten the applications down and move to a more regimented process. I should say I have a bias towards committees of adjustment as being a very good tool to use to get the approvals you need, studies you need, and to move it forward rather quickly, rather than sometimes amending the official plan, amending the zoning bylaw, and then having to do a site plan, or maybe even holding provision removal. I mean, that seems like a lot when there may be a way of doing it a little more streamlined, and still get the studies you need done. Site plan control, there's some talk about that in the RFP. You don't have a lot of those, but you did put in a change to your bylaw that anything within 120 meters of water or wetlands can be subject to site plan control, even single-family dwellings, which the province mandated that anything under 10 residential units is not subject to site plan control. So there is some movement there if you felt like site plan control was maybe onerous. It's a shame because site plan control to me was always a nice tool that could be used in the right way to get things that you need done on a property without, it's now staff mandated. So it's delegated to the CAO, I think. And so it could be a way through committee of adjustment. And I get into the technical powers of a committee, which extend beyond just minor variances, including interpreting zoning bylaws that are defined generally. By using that and site plan control, you could have a more streamlined process. But that would best come when you rewrite the zoning bylaw and make section 3.28 on non-complying uses a little clearer. And that was keeping in mind the Orca and the Trent Severn historic site groups, which also issue permits for a lot of these cottage renovations. However, they don't necessarily get into stormwater and some of the other things that your staff are forced to deal with. A little word on staff qualifications. So there's a lot of bad information, frankly, social media about that. You have qualified staff here. They comply with the courts. They're listed on the court system. They have their qualifications, and that's a good thing. And keeping those people and making sure they get the training they need to keep their qualifications up is important. You have a planner who has a good mentor and is working towards her qualifications. They're different than those mandated under the Building Code Act, but you have the staff, they have their qualifications. And if anybody wants to question that, it's not to you or to me. They do that through Building Code Commission. They really are serious about that, but I do not see any issues with their staff qualifications. In fact, I would encourage you to try and retain your staff as best as possible, because they're not easy to find and they all seem willing and able to do the work. I just will say it to end that section off about technical compliance, that in my 40 years and 12 as a CAO for small municipalities, there is not an ideal structure, in my opinion. The ideal structure comes from who's working there and how and what their qualifications are and how you can retain them. So I can't point to a textbook that says you should have this structure with a director of planning and a CBO, and there isn't one for a small place. You just got to get the job done. And that's what's happening here. And I think you should take the structure that you have as a group and run with it, because there's a real opportunity here to move forward with something that everyone's going to be happy with. I feel like it's changed even in the 6 months I've been around, that just having a chance to talk about it has helped. But you know more than I. You're out there in the community every day and I'm not. But council staff relations, that's a critical thing. That's the next slide. I talked briefly about the CBO's role under the Building Code Act, and then as a department head, that they're different in a sense. But your structure, you have a new CAO, you have a deputy CAO clerk who's done the work in the planning department before. You have good people there that you could use to communicate through to department heads, and I would encourage you to use that system. It works. I've been in that kind of hub between the council and the staff, and it can work really well. And I think you have the people here to make it work well. And I heard council say that that's the way you want to have it done, that if there's an issue that comes to you, you go to the CAO, and the CAO or deputy CAO go to the staff, and vice versa. I think that needs to work the other way, that the staff through the CAO come to you and overshare information on what they're doing. I saw the report that was on maybe yesterday. I mean, that's a report, And I know everyone's busy, and especially this time of year, I would encourage you to try and beef that information up. And there's lots of examples around how that can happen. One of the things that Southgate does, I give advice to there. They have every Planning Act application and all the reports that you can go and pick on and look at the status of it, what the reports say, and it's updated with the notices and the council minutes. All that stuff is there. You can see it. That way, if council needs to see something, they can see it without having to ask. The public wants to see something, they can see it without having to ask. There is some stuff on the county site. I found it not all that reliable, so we had to weed through it as a group to make sure we had it correct. I think the county's trying, and I didn't go into their whole site, but I know in terms of the application levels, numbers that they were reporting didn't coincide with what I found out to be happening in the municipality. So again, about oversharing information and putting everything you possibly can and have time to on the website so people can see it. It lifts this kind of veil of people kind of sense you're trying not to show them things or whatever. And I know that's not true, but it helps people if they can go and see things. Talked about the code of conduct for building officials. I think you should review that regularly with a report from your CAO and the department head, your CBO about that, and make sure it's on the website and everyone sees the changes and that they know that you're monitoring it. It's important. And I've talked about, there's a council staff relations policy, and I think for the vast majority of times it's followed. Again, it's another one to review that along with your customer service posted procedures, making sure everyone's following them regardless of what mandate they're operating under. That really covers the council staff relations part. I talk about upfront information already, accountability. I mean, I think that was always, I think in the CAO position more than anywhere, you get to see what council sees a lot, because if you're, as a councillor, bringing them to me, I was always amazed at the quality of things council got as far as complaints, and B, the amount of nonsense complaints they got. And they can come at council everywhere, in the grocery store, walking down the street, at a public event. So the more information they have, the better. That's all I can say. And I've grown to really respect that relationship and with council that the staff have. And I think it can work well. And I think you have people here at leadership now that that can help everyone work through these issues without the kinds of problems that you may have experienced in the past. Customer service, this is the next slide. Supplying information to the public. Some of that information is in the report. I think that information needs to be on the website and easily accessible all the time. I've talked about the customer service and standard and the complaint processes. There's a couple of ideas about enhancing customer service. You've already dealt with the Friday issue about building staff availability. They're available. I think everyone should accept that as a good thing. That was done. It was done because you heard that it was needed. I've got into suggesting Saturday inspections, only because that would be an extra service you could do for your cottagers. I realize that's kind of a service enhancement, and I understand that no one wants to do an inspection on Saturday. So that's just out there as a thought, and it's a response thing too. Again, quite a number of your ratepayers being in those cottages. As mentioned, fees should probably stay the same over time. Move to square footage, that may mean some adjustment. Generally speaking, I don't ever see fees should suggest they should go down. You're gonna find in the fee review that everybody else's are gonna go up, so they'll start to meet your standard. The fees are all kept in the department anyway, so they're just into reserve for those days when that may come when you can't meet your budget. So it's a challenge given the volatility in permit numbers. Talk a little bit about dedicated office hours. That relates primarily to the cloud permit. A couple of websites I saw from other municipalities. Yes, you file with cloud permit, but you can also bring your plans in, and they explicitly say that. And what happens is they just help them through the system. I hated it as a consultant when I had to go through cloud. I just wanted to go talk to someone. But that's the way it is these days. And I think staff can help bridge that with some dedicated time to do that. You also have some pretty good expertise in there about cloud permit that could be helpful. So you already have people in the department that really know that system pretty well. There's some talk about standard building templates, deck plans, simple things that you could hand out to people. I know you can print them off from the internet. Heck, I was in a meeting and we were looking at an office building for a new municipal office building, and people designed the library as we were standing there through AI. We actually come up with a coherent design. So there's lots of information out there. There's a picture taken of this building. It was going to be a library. We were standing beside this building and the redesigned library was there, and we were still standing there in the picture. And they did it in minutes. So the world's changing. Thankfully, in a few years, I won't be hard anymore as far as doing this work, but I think it would be helpful to help guide some of your ratepayers who, like me, maybe aren't quite up to snuff with the technology. And I think that can help make things smoother as you move forward through the process. Bylaw enforcement was interesting. And I know that CBO does the bulk of it. And I know it's kind of based on complaints, and there's a form you can file on your website about it. I'd like to see maybe a policy about it, in terms of that basically says that council responds based on complaints. Only that there should be an inspection done, a follow-up, and a recorded process from start to finish about what happens to that complaint. And that's for everyone's own protection, so that the staff have that they've been to the site, they've addressed the landowners, they've spoken to legal counsel, they've talked to the CAO, they've looked at options, they've tried to enforce it. 90% of your enforcement is discussion. But if you get into legal, that takes 90% of your budget. Like, you'll start spending. And those fines don't always offset that. So I heard some frustrations that maybe council would like to see some enforcement from the public, that, you know, why is enforcement occurring here and not here? I think if you were, again, sharing information, you have a policy on it, and that the steps that happen during that process are documented, then that will help you deal with these kinds of concerns. Honestly, it's one of the toughest jobs to do for a municipality, is to go to a property with a landowner who's under stress and doesn't really want you there, and probably doing things they shouldn't be, to try and get them to comply. It is a challenge. I think the AMP process, administrative money penalties, as the province's new term, will help with the zoning provisions. There's already a thing called short form wording that you can do for some of your bylaws, that you can just issue a ticket. That makes it a little easier. I don't know how far you've gone on your short form wordings of your bylaws, but that's another customer service thing, negative customer service thing. But if you're wanting enforcement and you're following council's policy on and direction on it, then issuing a ticket's a lot better than issuing an order and taking that order into the courts and so forth. Building code's different. It's a little more direct, but bylaw enforcement, property standards, that's different. One of the big ones you have here is noise. But there is a municipal law enforcement officers of Ontario group. It may be worth staff looking at joining that. The final section is communication. This is where we get into the county economic development, where we get into what economic development might look for at the township level. What I'm suggesting here is something that your CAO and deputy CAO and others may already have quite a bit of experience with, but business retention and expansion visits, going to businesses once or twice a year, or even a mayor's breakfast once or twice a year, where you have building staff do a presentation, where you have the recreation staff do a presentation, where you just reach out to the public. I found those to be really helpful, bridging the gap. Again, oversupplying information, and it may come to a point where no one comes, but without it, they're always well attended. You can probably do that without staff, new staff. We'll see how the county economic development process grows. Lack of I think that's its acronym, GROW. But some of the local municipalities here in this county have economic development staff. You happen to have people who are already doing that work or can do that work. So that's where I didn't hear an appetite for a staff person come from the questionnaires or the interviews. It was kind of more of an afterthought. I had to prod people to sort of comment on that kind of thing, but it was in the RFP. And I think to the issue of communication and oversupplying information, oversupplying chances for people to talk to you, it's sometimes difficult at first. I know I didn't like sitting down with some of the angry ratepayers initially, but after an hour or so, it wasn't too bad. And I guess as long as someone thinks you're listening and you are listening, there's some things to be gleaned from those. And I think if you go out with a positive message and you have lots of information to share and things are getting better, then I think you'll find it rewarding too. There isn't a suggestion for more staff, but I think depending on where you take economic development, depending on what you want to do with your website and your social media and over communicating what that means, you may need to look at that. There is some suggestions in the report about opening the store a few times a week, maybe putting a staff member from building and planning upstairs with the rest of the people who do reception. There's also talk about making sure your financial system communicates with your cloud system. That's very important. So there's lots of good things you can do. I know I've seen progress already in the 6 months. More things on the website, more communication. You have your newsletter, which I received weekly emails on. So I keep using it, keep supplying it, and I don't think you can overdo communication. The last section deals with service delivery reports. There's one for each department. I won't go into those. What I like about those is it kind of gives you everything about the department in a quick glimpse. And if you look at in the report, there's budget information that can go in there. New initiatives, each budget, what they would cost would be linked in there. And then there's a section for future issues beyond 2026 and into the future that the staff see coming. So these could be something that you use at budget. I thought your budget presentations are pretty good, pretty full of information. The RFP asked for service delivery reports. This is one that I've come up with. I've used it in the past. It shows you the budget codes. It shows you the full-time equivalents. It shows you the strategic direction of the department and other things in there. So it's kind of a handbook on each department that you can see. Finally, feedback. This information was posted on your website, this report, this presentation. Hoping to hear from you today and through the summer. Anyone who wants to email me, we'll keep those links open. And then sometime when staff and council are ready, the final report can be presented for approval. In its current form, I think it can still inform the new council when it comes forward in the next budget. I'm happy to work on this until it's complete. I really appreciate all the cooperation I've had from staff at all levels and from council and the public. It's been actually quite a joy to work in your municipality, and brought back some good memories about what it was like to be in the front lines and some bad ones. So I just wanted to assure you that what you're experiencing maybe comes out of most past things. I think you're now moving forward into a future that I hope with some of the little suggestions I've put in here that can help. So I know I've gone on almost an hour. Are there any questions, discussions, feedback? I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you very much, Bill, for the presentation and for all the work you've done for us. Very, very much appreciated. And I think I say for everyone in the room here and outside, people that have come to see you, it was definitely a pleasure. So I will now open it up to committee members to ask any questions, comments. Floor is open. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Thanks very much, Bill, for your report. And I know it's been a lot of work, and I couldn't agree more with a lot of stuff you've said. I totally agree with what you've said, and customer service, I think, always can be improved. It really doesn't matter where you look, why there's always little, and that goes for myself. I include myself in that as well. But what my question is about surrounding the cloud permit. We did have a very good discussion, I thought, the night of the open house, and just a little more on the cloud permitting. Is there ways that you see that we could? I know we don't want to get into too much hand notes and written stuff and the way the cloud permitting actually works, or what I believe the way it works. Is there any enhancement because we know that people are not tech savvy. A lot of people are not tech savvy, and allowing the public to come in and help with staff to get them permits in and do that cloud permitting. And I believe that we are doing that now. I believe that Jenna or the staff is, whoever that might be, is helping out the people. Is there any way that you see that we could accommodate like a written statement of where they are within the process when the inspector goes out, or something to help the public in that way? I'll leave that up to you then to answer that.
Through the chair, to Deputy Mayor, that's what the system's supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to look at it and see what the status of your permit is. And I think they could, if you're tech savvy, like you say, do that. I think that sometimes it can get behind if you're taking paper notes. I think the devices in field, even if the staff are to learn to talk into it or however they do it, that could make more real-time information available. But and I heard from the staff that they would like more training on it, that perhaps the cloud people aren't, that the operators of the software, the people who own it, aren't entirely responsive all the time on the issues that are brought forward, and that's common. I'm not an expert on cloud by any means. There is some money in the budget that we could have one of our students go through it, who is pretty smart, and maybe talk to the staff about increased functionality over the summer, if that was the direction that you wanted. If we could maybe do some of that research, because it's really hard when you're in the field to do that and do the inspections and talk to people if you're going to have more office hours and all that stuff and help them. So we can help maybe a little bit to try and increase that functionality, see whether it could make things easier if you had planning applications filed that way. Not that I want to create a whole more hornet's nest about
Right.
that, but I think the main thing I think is you have a decision on your financial software coming up. And whatever that ends up with, they need to communicate, and maybe you decide to go to something different, but I think there's opportunities there, but in this time when people's tech savvy runs a whole range from never opening a computer to being able to design a building in 5 seconds, you're gonna have challenges with it. But I think we can help over the summer if you would like that, if that came as a direction from Todd. But training for your staff and getting the devices in field, I think that will help.
Through the chair, Bill, thanks for that. Is it cloud devices? Is that what it is? Like, is it a actual cloud device that they take out, or is it something else that ties into the cloud permitting? It's just
It's just an app that goes on the phone or on a iPad or something.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Mayor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, just piggybacking on the devices conversation. So right now, just to confirm, our field staff in the building department do not have corporate cell phones. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, or through the chair to the mayor, that is correct. We do not have cell phones in field.
Okay, so when we're talking about the cloud permit on devices to help generate some efficiencies in terms of transcribing notes and what have you, did the conversation come up at all around even just the personal safety and security of our field staff who are going to job sites often alone, whether it's a slip and fall on an icy, non-properly landscaped driveway because it's a construction site, or if there's a confrontation or something, like did that come up in conversation at all about their safety and how they probably ought to, and even GPS trackable? I know some building departments don't allow staff to leave without their corporate device for just the health and safety factor, not much less efficiency.
With the chair to the mayor, it did come up. It is an issue, and I feel like having corporate phones, I mean, you can use your own phone too, but I feel like for this information, you'd want it on corporate phone. And how you track it, we'll leave it to you to work out, but it's definitely a health and safety issue.
Okay, thank you for confirming that. I'm particularly curious, in your presentation, Bill, you talked about section 3.28 of the site plan control bylaw. I believe it was the section that you referenced. And suggested that there were some ideas around the possibility of having a committee of adjustment relying on C of A to help streamline some of that work instead of everything coming through to council or what have you. I'm sure you're well aware our committee of adjustment is comprised of community members who I believe are very excellent in the work that they do, but are for plain speak citizens. They're not professionally trained biologists, planners, and all that wonderful stuff. So what are some of the things that you think that we could be putting to committee of adjustment, keeping in mind that they're community citizens and their willingness, understanding, education, training, and knowledge to be able to accept that responsibility might be limited? So how would we prepare them for that work?
Through the chair to the mayor, I've worked with committees that are both volunteer or all of council, so you can work with the mix of your committee if you wish to do that. Do they need extra training? Sure. Yes. The committee of adjustment members should get regular training just like council gets it. There's a section of the Planning Act that allows committees of adjustment to interpret bylaws that are defined in general terms. And it's rarely used. And I didn't speak at a lot of conferences in my career, but one I did speak at was at the Ontario Association of Committee of Adjustment, and I lobbied for using that authority. So I don't think that because you need the training for committee members, I would agree. You can change the structure of your committee if you felt like you wanted people more experienced with these kinds of applications to deal with them. But they're to sit independent. There to give a technical view of it. They're still relying on staff reports, environmental impact reports. They can come, but the process is shorter. They can put conditions on. So if you wanted to get around this issue of whether single family dwellings are actually legally subject to site plan control, if it comes from a committee of adjustment condition, then you can use that provision. So I feel like and at one time, some of these cottages did go through committee of adjustment. And I know that in at least one other municipality, they tend to rely on it for the. It's just a question of preference, comfort with whether the environment's being protected or not, or whether the issues are being fully explored. But to your point, I think that you need to train your committee of adjustment more on them if you're going to do that. And I think, or maybe mess with your appointments on it and do it differently.
Understood. Thank you. The other, shifting gears a little bit, was around the scoped peer reviews that you talked about and how the modification of responsibility for conservation authorities eliminated having those biologists and experts available to us. And you made comment in your dialogue that we, eventually may be at a point where we have to rely on the expertise of the applicant, planner, and experts. Under the current legislation that oversees all of this provincially, are we at that point now, or do you see that that's the trend that the province is headed towards? I just want to make sure that we get clarification on, do we have that capability as a present moment, or is that something that we're anticipating legislatively?
As far as the legislation, it's not fully there yet, unless it happened today or this week and I didn't notice. It needs a regulation as to what the qualified people are and who you have to accept. So that's where that is. That doesn't mean you have to peer review everything. That's really a choice. What I suspect it's going to say is that if they have a PNG or whatever certain qualifications, then that's the report. So I feel like to go along with that, to start getting on with that trend, we have to start imagining a world where we don't have a full report from a consultant on our side or on the municipal side. That maybe they just give you broad ideas to look at, but there will be an onus on those people who provide you reports just to be correct, and they will be held liable. So there'll be a extra duty of care. So you have some authority now, I think, to be less into peer reviews if you wish to, but it's pretty common. A lot of places use them, especially if you don't have specialty staff on board. And of course, none of the municipalities I ever worked with had biologists. I have seen now, once the Conservation Authority lost that role, that the county, as a county ecology group, that they developed to do that. So that might be a way of helping. So.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. I just want to make sure that that's not the expectation that we're doing that now, but that's probably what the future is trending on that. And my last point is, I'm kind of going in reverse of your presentation as I'm following my notes up here. You touched on a number of times in your commentary and in the report about oversupplying information and being purposeful in doing that, Bill. Making sure that the information is available up front, whether it's our policies online or even just as somebody is going through a building or planning process. One of the more recent concerns that I've heard, and I shared this in our conversation, is people will sit down and do a pre-consultation or talk with staff about what do we need to do to move this building forward, this deck forward, whatever it is. And then they go through that process, and although we have great staff, at the end of it, they submit it thinking they're ready to, here's everything you need, we've done it. And then staff are like, oh, well, we looked at it again and we missed something, right? And something's come up along the way, or well, now you need to get this. So how do we prevent that from happening and kind of front end, like the checklist of things, by the way, once this approves, you're going to need to do this, so that people in their heads, the customers that are coming to us, know that, the benchmark isn't moving, and know what they can plan and budget for in terms of timelines and costs, and booking in trades and sub trades to do work. Because it seems like that benchmark moves to a lot of the people who we hear from that are upset. As you say, there are a great number of permits that go through without any incident, and we don't hear from the happy ones. That's common, right? But the ones that are dissatisfied is like, hey, we thought we were all done, and now all of a sudden we got to do this, and they didn't know. And had we have known sooner, we would have planned for that. So how do we mitigate that and get ahead of that?
Through the chair to the mayor. It's interesting because as much as I'm saying overshare information at the start, I feel like your pre-consultations probably go above and beyond oversharing. They're coordinating a meeting, which is a wonderful service with other agencies involved. They're issuing minutes of the meetings and doing like a technical summary. And so when you're doing that at this early stage without a lot of, like, you don't necessarily have an EIS, usually not. Sometimes it feels to applicants like, well, I've got everything I need. So what I'm suggesting here is, in the case of pre-consultation, it is not a meeting anymore with all the agencies present. The applicants go see the agencies themselves, and staff suggests that in their pre-consultation report, that they give point form issues on what are the things that they think you're going to need coming forward. You're going to need an EIS and a traffic study and a archaeological assessment, which is almost every time, sorry, and other things. But that there is quite a clear qualification that this is a pre-consultation only. We're trying to identify the issues for you. We're not going to call everybody together. You're going to have to find some of this out on your own. And they rely on their own understandings of things as qualified professionals to find out what they need. And you can be a little more direct if it's just me coming in and I don't know anything about the process. You can be a little more specific on them. But I feel like in the case of pre-consultations, it would help the planner if she didn't have to have, and help service if they took a little less responsibility for that. And that way you don't get the kind of thing, whereas it felt like I talked about everything and we even had a meeting and you gave me this long report. How could you possibly have anything more? Well, the studies come in, you get into the applications actually filed when full, studies start to show up, and things can change. And frankly, sometimes you miss things. So I think in the case of that, being able to get to the planner more frequently than once or twice a month, which is what they were doing, and talk about things and give a less detailed response and just give overall direction will help with that. So they can move forward a little quicker on their own.
I appreciate that answer, Bill. I feel like, though, the same conversation around this matter can be had. It's the same issue when you talk about people's level of technical knowledge and understanding, right? And understanding who our customers are and the spectrum of skills that they may or may not have when it comes to technology or building and planning legislation. And I understand it's up to council to set the policy and identify what that service standard is. And we're trying to balance the needs of our residents and building community, as well as the financial costs and the staff availability. But to be able to say, okay, go to these, these 5 or 6 or 10 consulting bodies, off you go and send them out into the wild to navigate that process on their own isn't necessarily indicative of good customer service for somebody who maybe is just trying to build that deck or put on that, granny suite for their mother-in-law to move in or something to that effect, right? So so I think that you've given us some fodder and good conversation points to consider around that, but I think that that's something that council will have to consider, what that service level looks like in the future, because I can see both, the pros and cons, and there's got to be some sort of happy middle in there. Thank you, Chair. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks, Bill, for doing this project for us and taking your time and coming down this morning and everything else that goes with it. Now you've been saying you've been watching our council meetings online. I guess the first thing I should ask you, do you think we should get more chairs in here? On more serious note, couple of things that I would like to see done. And I don't know how they can do it legally or with closed sessions or whatever be. But what I would really like to see done in this council, next council, whatever, is that the council member sits down with the building department on one and go through the concerns that we hear out in the field. Because there's a lot of them. And I know they're the old professionals and they've got their licenses to do and do their job. But we're not there to tell them what to do on the job. But I do think we need, and I was wishing something like that could have been recommended, that the council sit down with the building department and go through some of the issues we have. And I do expect that a lot of them we don't see them because there's no issues. And I understand that. That's great. But it's the time of now that people are digging in more and want more and expect more and a lot of them not coming through this in the past. They don't know where to go, and all of a sudden they talk to their neighbors and they done that and it costs them to do this. And so I mean I think I personally would like to see council sit down with the building staff. Now I don't know if they can do it in closed session or however, I don't know. But I think we need to get on the same page and let the building department realize that they're being paid by these people that are complaining. And I'm not saying that they're right sometime, half time, or anytime. Bottom line is we got to respect them more and cater to them more. That's what I see. And maybe that shouldn't come through in your report, but that's one thing I'd like to see done. Okay. And then the other thing is when you got for staffing, I was hoping that staffing, I heard you say that maybe down the road they might need somebody else. I was hoping the other way around. I was hoping that you might say that we're able to cut back, but that's just coming from my heart. Anyways, once again, thanks for the report.
May I respond to that? And I appreciate the question through to the chair. I'd like to think that I did bring because I had very pointed interviews with all of you and the members of the public. And it's all recorded in writing. And I didn't feel like I wanted to get very specific here today. And I would say that I probably had 10 meetings with Todd and 8 with Martina and a couple with Dawn. So I think they've heard you. And I think a lot of what you're saying is in there. What I would encourage though is that council not sit down necessarily with the building department in that way, but that they work with the CAO and the building department to get your concerns through, and that you use that chain of command and think about some of these recommendations and how they can help. When the customer service standard is brought forward, when the building officials code of conduct is brought forward to you to approve, then you have those discussions, and those discussions occur in open. If you're talking about staffing levels, that's a personnel issue. And I did not get into that. And then you do that in closed, as you all know. So I don't see, because of where your services is, unless, you know, I'm suggesting you start supplying more information. I'm suggesting you start getting a handle on all those back permits. And I know councils felt like that was happening. So I think you need to deploy your staff to try and make progress on those things. And then you assess levels as you go. And that would be at budget. That's just my opinion on how it should work.
Thank you. Councillor Hensman.
Thank you, through the chair. That was very, very interesting, Bill. Thank you for doing that. And I think that many of the items that were brought up by other council members are things that are very necessary, and I'm sure that some way it can manage to be um, all put together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm just gonna throw one comment in here that you've already kind of heard, but just my 2 cents on it, and it's something that I hear out in the field a lot, and that is the communication with the cloud permitting. As has been said here by a couple people, we have a vast range of tech savvy people in this township. Some people don't own a smartphone, some people that don't own a computer, right down to people that, like you say, could design a building in 5 minutes, kind of like that. But it's those people that don't have it is where the struggle is that I hear about all the time. So they want to come in and put in a copy. They get help here. That's fine. That's excellent that they get help to get that process and get that plan into the system. But then it's the updates after that. You need this, you need that, you need something else. If cloud, and again, I'm not real savvy on cloud either. It spits out an email to somebody saying, hey, you still need this, you still need that. You're gonna have an inspection today, whatever I got. You're gonna have an inspection next Friday. They don't get that because they don't have that technology. And whatever email address they put down, they could have made one up for all you know, just because there's a spot in there that needs an email address. So it's that personal communication. Like maybe there just needs to be a checkbox on a permit of someone, like how tech savvy are you? Are you going to be able to get questions that need to be asked? Are you going to be able to get an email? Are you going to be able to respond to this or, do this? If not, it has to be that personal phone call. And I know you and I talked about that, and it is another layer, but I feel in this township, it's a layer that's necessary. Like we just have too much of a broad range. 20 years from now, you probably won't have anybody that doesn't have all the devices and everything they need right on the spot, and fantastic Wi-Fi or cell service all across the whole county. But where we are right now, we need that extra layer. I know it's an extra layer, but we actually need it.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I would agree with you, and there is quite a bit of discussion about following up with the phone in the report. It's in there. It's not always easy to do that. But I think, again, it's about oversupplying customer service. If you look at the report, there's 2 quotes on the front of the page of it. And it's really why you're all here and why I was here for 40 years and the staff are here, and that's to serve the ratepayers and to help them comply with the laws that are in effect. So I think however you do that and however the staff do it, I think overreaching out when you can, you do it. Also, under the Building Code Act, applicants have an obligation to, so they need to be somewhat up to speed if they're making the effort of applying for a building permit. So they have to supply correct information and plans and drawings, and they're obligated to do that. So to the degree that the building department can help the novice, that's why we've suggested some sketches and things that they could use, but you would hope that they don't take on projects that they can't handle, like trying to build my own house. If I'm quite frankly not qualified to do that, that's where. So yeah, they have obligations, but I think if the staff, they'll realize it and they use the kit gloves and the extra calls, but you have a customer service standard that talks about when people have to be communicated with. And that's what I mean, merge that customer service standard with the code of conduct and encourage them to reach out. And if they're reaching out as much as they can, then I think you'll probably find, and they get into bylaw enforcement and some of the other things that they have to do, that maybe your service levels, you'll have a better, more comfort with it. If you don't get I didn't get a call back thing, or they didn't show up for an inspection or whatever, there'll be a reason why.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll just, we're going to wrap this up pretty quick, but Deputy Mayor, last comment?
Thanks through the chair. Bill, just one question I have is, and you talk about there's other systems, and I'm sure staff investigated that before, or I know they would have investigated that, but is there other, sometimes what happens is, I'll use cloud permitting as an example. When they come out, they're like the Cadillac of the works. Then as time goes on, they don't want to put any money into stuff, and another app or another company comes to the forefront. Has this maybe happened, or is there other companies that exceed what cloud permitting is in customer service. Or in that, as far as what I call customer service, is there other, companies out there, in your knowledge, that are better than cloud permitting?
Through the chair, to the deputy mayor, there are others that do it. I'm not gonna say whether they're better or worse. Everybody seems to be going with the cloud permit now, especially smaller ones. I think Peterborough uses Amanda, which is another one. Um, Compatibility with your finance system is going to be important.
Right.
So when you make that decision, then you can reevaluate cloud. And cloud's come up almost every interview. I would like to take some time over the summer, maybe to work with my student. She's not a student anymore. We've hired a full-time planner now, and she's quite savvy, and she can look into this a little bit and maybe give some more information into the report about cloud and options out there and functionality. I always intended to do that. We just haven't got to that point yet.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Bill. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill. Absolutely, outstanding work as far as I'm concerned, and I think my colleagues will probably, agree with that fully. Look forward to the final report. So as far as next steps from us, I mean, you've heard from us this morning. Do you still want us to send in comments, questions, whatever for the next little while? And I'm guessing that's open to the whole public and stuff like that, but I just want to make sure that we're on board with what you need next.
Yes, Mr. Chair, anything, the website's still active. I think probably Martino, before the end of the week, will have everything up there that needs to go up there, and maybe even reach out and social media if you haven't already. I don't follow it, social media, but let them know that it's there, that they can use the email that directly comes to me. The council can use the email, and I will be meeting with Todd and Martina, probably Dawn too, over the summer, just to see what's come in and what may come out after this meeting and where they want me to head to finish the report off. But it's been a pleasure working with all of you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And with no other further ado, then I will entertain a motion to receive the delegation with thanks, and we'll just proceed on from there. And that was Councillor Johnson, Mayor Watson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Bill. Safe travel back. You're welcome to stay and listen to the rest of the presentations if you like, but safe travels back to Barrie. All right, everyone. I'm just going to call a 5-minute break now, just before we start the staff things, and bathroom break, coffee, water, whatever. So thank you very much. We'll be back at 11:30.
Mr. Chair, it is now 11:30. We are returned from our recess.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And welcome to staff members that are here right now. We're going to get into the manager's reports now. And as on my agenda here, it says, staff's been requested to keep the reviews short and allow for an efficient meeting and provide council to ask time for questions and have dialogue. We have, I would say, if I'm talking for everyone here, read over the reports already. So if there's any updates or anything new or something you want to touch on that is in there that maybe has a little more context, by all means, go ahead. So we're going to start right off with the Douro-Dummer Public Library update. Maggie, the podium is yours.
Red means on. Okay. Thank you. I will be brief. I just wanted to come today and connect because it's been a while since the library has been before council. In terms of, well, I included the June library newsletter and program calendar in the report. That's always available on the website and on our social media, and it's just an update of what's happening in terms of programs and events at the library. Since extending our operating hours, we've had a lot of positive feedback. I won't go through all of our new programs. Like I said, that's available in the newsletter. I will just point to our growth in stats. We checked out almost, well, both our books and ebooks checked out this year. We're up. We recently just submitted our annual stats to the Survey for Public Libraries, so that's where those numbers come from. We held a May membership drive. We got 47 new members signing up to the library in May. We've had 81 new members since the start of the year, so that's great. And then the only other thing I wanted to highlight or bring attention to was looking ahead, what's coming up in terms of the library board, and just sort of like a refresher on how board appointment works. As you know, council appoints the board after the election, and people in the community can make application directly to the clerk's office beginning November 1st. There's no legislative guidance on how to approach board recruitment, so we can all take part. So I just wanted to extend the invitation to everyone here to spread the word. If they know anyone who is interested in serving, it's a great way for young residents to contribute to the community and build professional experience, grow their impact and network. The board has expressed that they would like enough applicants to create a 5 or 7 member group. They're looking for fresh perspectives, individuals with skill sets in finance or law or fundraising. I'm working on community education around library governance that I'll share between now and the election. So I just wanted to encourage anybody who is curious about the library board to please reach out to me. I can share more information. So if folks here know of people who are interested, they can be directed to me. And that is all that I will highlight from the report. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions from the committee? Oh, seeing nothing, I guess you're getting off pretty easy this morning. I will entertain a motion to receive the delegation with thanks. Councillor Johnson and Councillor Landsman, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maggie. Appreciate you coming out. All right, moving right along. We're up to the fire and emergency services. Chuck, you're on the hook.
Good morning. So you do have my report, just a couple of highlights. We have received the provincial grant money for our cancer mitigation stuff. So the dryers and the hose washer and everything is fully into service. Some of the equipment isn't exactly where we want it with the station challenges, but they're all being used and deployed. We have received the 2 new fire trucks that we ordered 2 years ago. Again, those are for station 4 and 1, which we talked about when we ordered them. They don't actually go, they won't fit in there, but they're in other stations for now. Obviously with the Station 4 go ahead, that will be accommodate one of those trucks. And then the other station is Station 1, which I talked a little bit in the report about. We have met with the designer to talk about the needs analysis of that station for the future. So that will also deal with that truck whenever we can mitigate those issues at Station 1. The other thing, I guess, which isn't on here, but we are applying for a Hydro One grant. So since the storms have happened that we're intensely getting, Hydro One has sent some grant opportunities. So we're going to be applying for the Douro Fire Station 2 for an automated generator system. So currently we only have one at Station 1. We did put Generalinks in after the storm last time to help bridge the gap, but we want to work towards fully automated. We don't want cold buildings and taking the time for firefighters to not only respond to the emergencies, but then also making sure that they get there, get a generator out. We've had generators stolen in the past, as you're aware. So trying to mitigate those things in the longer term. But so we have a short-term plan that we did last year. We'll use these opportunities to try to upgrade the stations. And if the grant continues on, then next year would be natural to do Station 5. It's a little bit pre-ready for where it is with the addition that we did there with the renovation. Compared to Station 2, it doesn't have as much capability. So that's kind of our plan and application that we're putting in for that. But I'm happy to answer any questions about that or anything else on the report.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions from the committee? Mayor Watson?
Thank you, Chair, through you. Couple of things. That generator too, it's just to be clear, I believe, is also for charging. I think the last ice storm we had issues with like charging radios, like for communications too, right? Like, was that an issue, or like this is going to help mitigate that as well?
Yeah, through the chair to Mayor, yes, we had with no power at the stations, we had problems all across the board with because some of the radios and stuff our base radios need that power to even be used at the station. The trucks get plugged in. That also charges the batteries, the tools, extrication stuff. So all these things, radios as well. And some stations have the radios on a bench, so it depends on the setup. But yeah, the power there is important. So
Thank you. And you touched on a little bit Station 1 renovation. Can you perhaps elaborate, what preliminary work is looking like at this point in time? Is it, a bump out addition to make a bay that's longer to accommodate the truck, or high? Like, what are we looking at here, please? Chief?
sure, yeah, through the chair to the mayor. So we have similar problems with that station not being big enough to accommodate new equipment, as well as one heating space. There's no real separation between the administration, training, radio room. We kind of have Station 1 and 4 set up as our decontamination areas for the extractors and stuff like that. So trying to support that in the future so that it's not as far a distance to travel to support the other stations. And then obviously the accommodation of another vehicle. So with the renovation plan, we're looking at it as hopefully a 2-phase if we can do that. So it makes it a little bit more tangible to get where we need to be. So part of the one bay that there's currently 3 bays there. So repurposing one bay to model the same as our other 2 stations that we did of the walk-in bunker gear room. So it's separate from the apparatus bay, separate HVAC system, and keeps all that contaminants out of that space, and then walking out into the apparatus bay. And there's a plan, I think, the plan is for 2 bays that are larger, and then one of the bays that's existing to be used for the pickup truck, and then the other bay that being converted into other useful space that we need for the bunker gear room. So it's really and then it is our alternate emergency operations center. And we have a small training room there, and it's very small and inadequate. We are struggling with space on that site. So we worked with the designer on a design that will put a second story above where the existing training room and where that bunker gear room would be. So that would give us a level without adding more square footage it's cheaper that way to go up than out. And we also don't have the property line distances to the county road and to Daleby Road. So that's kind of what we're looking at as preliminary. It's very early. I've received it. We've looked at it. There's going to be lots of opportunities for council's input on, how far you want to go with that. And, if it's a one-phase approach or a two-phase approach. So I think this two-phase approach should work. And then that'll get our truck into service that needs to be there, and it'll eliminate the mixing of all the things that go on under one space instead of two.
Excellent. Thank you for that. I was wondering about the property space, the physical space and footprint. So building up makes sense. Thank you for that clarification, Chief.
Councillor Johnson.
To the chair. Thanks, actually. That was a good night last night too. Representing those people that have done the service for years. That's a very nice thing to do. I just questioned that when you got that swim survival prevention program delivered at both schools, how far do you go? What would you actually do on that? Like, do the kids don't go in some pool or anything, do they?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Johnson, yeah, so it's a program that's done through Risk Watch, Peterborough County initiative. So we're part of that program. It's delivered through many schools throughout the county. And so there's the paramedics are involved, the police are involved, and we're involved. So we all do a different day at the school to teach about something. And it's all for grade 3, so that's what it's focused on. And then we all go in and do days at the school, and then they also have corresponding pool days. So there's transportation that's provided. A lot of it's through the grant, or the school pays directly for the transportation and the pool time. And then so they go to the pool a few times to apply what they've learned in the classroom. And then there's a pool day and a graduation at the end of it. So we try to participate with our portion. And when we can, we try to attend the graduation because it's a celebratory moment for them.
Well, thanks very much. That's well needed. I think I heard in the radio there last weekend that there's only been 4 or 5 drowned already this year. So I'm really glad the kids are getting that teaching. Thank you.
I guess just I'm the last person then, because there's no one else. So Chuck, you and your department and the associations stuff I got have saved the township and ratepayers a pile of money with the renovations up at White Lake, with the renovations of the Douro-Dummer, with people coming to standing up to the plate and offering in-kind services, in-kind materials. So if a lot of the stuff on the fire trucks, a lot of the stuff on the pontoon boats, the association has raised money and paid for those things. And I think there's a lot of people in the township don't have any idea on how much money that has actually been saved on the taxpayers' back because of those things happening. So with the renovations in Donwood, is there something in the works for the same kind of a plan to try and do some fundraising, to try and do some recruitment of in-kind, that kind of thing like that? Because I can hear right now, if somebody after this meeting here today, it'll probably be on social media. Oh, the township's going to spend more money on another fire department, and we just spent 13 million or I can hear it now. So if there's anything that that's going to ease the people's minds a little bit, that's where the plan to go is, I'd certainly like to hear that.
Right. Well, thank you for the question. Yeah, I think it's too early to I think it comes down to the scope of the project. We had 2 different champions that had some skill sets for those stations that were done, and they kind of took the charge and we managed that to get there. When we look at Station 4, it's it's a big animal to try to put that on. It's not really an addition renovation type of project. So I think we have to understand what this project may look like before we can understand how we can get there.
And that's perfect. Thank you very much. That'll probably save a lot of comments and questions that we don't need to hear, because half truths come out and we don't need to hear that. Anyway, thank you very much. Councillor Johnson, last comment?
And one comment on that, keep in mind down the road, I'd like to come knocking on our lines if we have some money for things like that we'd be more than glad to help the fire department with. Keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Excellent. If there's no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion to receive with thanks. Deputy Mayor Nelson, Councillor Lensman, all in favor? Carried. Thanks very much, Chuck. Much appreciated. All right, moving right along. Jake, Public Works, you're on the podium, sir.
Thank you through the chair. Guess I'll start on the operational side of things. Our road sweeping is completed. We had a very wet spring, this year, kind of a late start. However, staff have been working, very hard and we've made good progress, since the spring. On our grading, we've got all the roads graded. We've also started our calcium applications. We're approximately halfway through the municipality now with calcium. We have McCracken's and Crow's Landing docks have been installed. That's kind of that was done before the May long weekend. 1 day a week, we have a local arborist coming in to help us with some of our dead tree removals. We've got a lot of ash and elm trees that are now showing they're all failing, I guess is what's happening. They're dying and they're rapidly coming to light. Roadside grass mowing has started. And then we'll switch over to the capital projects. Like I had mentioned, it was a wet spring. Slow. I thought it was going to be a lot slower, but our contractors have really been eager to get started. Our surface treatment, we've already completed all of the single surface treatment projects. The 5th line of Douro has been pulverized. It will receive a double, so they've moved on and they'll be coming back to do our double applications. Transfer station scale's been in place now, up and running for a while. Seems to be working out great. We've had no complaints, no concerns, so that's good. And as I've said, our gravel contractor is also started. We've got approximately 6 of our road sections will be completed by the end of the week. So we've hit the roads running here this year. So that's good. Household Hazardous Waste Day on the waste management side of things was held on May 23rd. Didn't have any concerns or issues with that event. Next event is August 15th. Last year, that was one of our busiest events. They had double the what we normally get. We have received double the vehicles. So they're going to try to mitigate that a little bit better this year. We had some delays in residents just with garbage accessing the site. So they're going to have more staff on this year. Try to mitigate the traffic through the site a little better. And the last final thing, the yard waste bin is in place again at the Public Works yard, and we'll be there until late fall. We usually weather dictates when we remove that. We wait as long as possible till the weather changes, and then it'll be removed. Yeah, and that's about it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Comments, questions from the committee? Councillor Johnson?
Through the chair, I want to make a comment that I'm really proud of our roads right now. I've been around on a lot of them doing work in that, and they're, I'm getting good comments that they're great. So I really want to echo you and your workers for that. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you.
Mayor Watson?
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Councillor Johnson stole the words right out of my mouth. I think I passed you on the 3rd line yesterday afternoon out and about, and I noticed that the grass cutting had started there. And I have heard from a number of residents and people who are out on the roads on the regular that have commented on how great things look, how great things feel, and to see the list of work that's already been undertaken so far. You know, congratulations to you and the crew. A question on the grass cutting. I feel like grass cutting is one of those things that you can't really, it's like snow removal, you can't really budget for how many times you're going to have to get out. And we have had a really wet spring. Yeah, are we on target for getting that grass cutting done at the levels they are? Are there any areas of concern, and are you going to be done working your way around the township, kind of do that loop in those critical areas? Is it like what's the status on it right now? 'Cause I noticed it's getting pretty high.
Yeah, so we have started, as I said, we started it last year. We did complete roadside grass mowing twice through the whole municipality, and I did budget for that this year as well. I don't know, it seems that whether it's wet or dry, if it's dry, it's the weeds that grow like stronger. So it seems as we move forward, we're having to do it twice. So I'm just budgeting now that we do it twice every year. So moving forward, that's what we're going to be. That's the plan.
Thank you very much.
All right, but thank you very much, Jake. I just have one question, if I could please, or comment, whatever, how you want to take it. I'm guessing the county's probably gonna start the grass cutting. Maybe they already have, I don't know. But there's two areas that I know year after year I get hit up about. One is coming out of the Warsaw Public School, and it's the triangle on the right where the road used to come down in, and cars and buses, and there's a lot of people pick up kids there. They come out and they only make that one cut along thing there. Last year, they went in and they cut the whole triangle back, and it made it a lot nicer for seeing oncoming traffic coming, especially with the kids in and out and in and out. And I know that ends end of June, but still. Was that our, and the other one was at Bethel Church, where thank you very much for the wintertime where you pushed the snow back on that corner. But because of the way that hill comes up and that grass comes up, it's getting tougher right now to see if they only make one cut on that corner. It still, you know, you really have to nose your vehicle out to see if there's anyone coming from the west coming east. So if they can cut those back, we could just mention that to the county next time you're talking or whatever, just get them to make 2 or 3 passes along both those spots. That would really be appreciated. So that's my only comments. So thank you very, very much for your presentation and the time you put into this, as well as all the department heads. I'll entertain a motion to receive with thanks. Councillor Johnson and Deputy Mayor Nelson, all in favor? Perfect. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Ash, you're up. Recreational Services, thank you.
All right, so through the chair, I trust that members of council have had the opportunity to review our report in recreation facilities, and rather than reviewing the whole report in its entirety, I'd just like to briefly highlight just a few updates and provide some additional information on several projects that we currently have underway. Number one, the community center sponsorship opportunities that you saw in our report. Staff are currently engaged in discussions to formalize a potential multi-year sponsorship agreement for both Douro and Warsaw community centers. We have met with a prospective sponsor and have consulted with several local municipalities to assist in establishing an appropriate sponsorship valuation. As this type of proposal that we have received is not a standard request for our department, we wanted to undergo a couple of different sources. So once discussions have progressed, further framework, we hope to create a framework and establish that, and staff will bring a report forward to council for consideration in the following months. Sound system replacement. With respect to the sound system replacement project, staff have received 2 quotes and are currently reviewing submissions. A report with recommendations is expected to be prepared and presented to council in the near future, likely at the August Committee of the Whole meeting. The municipal office exterior cleaning. The exterior of our township office was recently cleaned by a local business here in our township, AD Exterior Cleaning, and EnviroPest as well. The work has improved the appearance of the facility while also addressing some pest management with some spider concerns around the building. The Douro Community Center ice surface replacement. I know this is a hot topic of discussion lately. The Douro Community Center ice surface replacement project has been awarded to Gear Construction. The contractor is currently working on leveling the floor surface in preparation for the installation of the refrigeration lines. Construction continues to progress as planned, with the completion expected in September. The Douro Community Center water system upgrade, another big one. Staff have finalized the scope of work for the Douro Community Center water system upgrade and have submitted it to the Finance Department. We anticipate issuing requests for quotations and to prospective contractors as soon as possible. And lastly, the south stair replacement. So that's in the South Park. So following discussions with our user groups at the Douro South Park, staff understand the importance of completing the South Park stair replacement project as quickly as possible, particularly with a provincial ball tournament taking place later next month. So staff have completed a report, pardon me, including recommendations which will be brought forward to council's for council's consideration. And that's all I have for today, but if there's any questions, comments, or concerns, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ash.
Thank
Comments,
you.
questions? Councillor Johnson.
To the chair, I just want to make one comment that I've had several people comment on the Douro Park, how well it looks over there. So I really want to thank the Mike and the staff for maintaining that and keep maintaining it, but that's very positive. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Councillor Landsman.
Thank you. Through the chair, regarding the completion date of the floor in the community center, you say September.
Mhm.
Is that assumed to then have everything completely done, according to what you've been told?
Yes, so through the chair to Councillor Landsman, yes. So from what we've been told, we're looking at September, end of September right now is what we're telling our users, and we are projected to be end of September, ready to start the next ice season.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Mayor Watson.
Chair, thank you. Through you. I understand I was in receipt of a couple of phone calls from a local football club, local being in the Peterborough area local that has recently, well, they were inquiring with me about using the fields. And then I believe they've recently started using the North Park fields for practices or games or what have you. They did follow up with me directly and comment how great it was dealing with you specifically, Ash. So congratulations on that. There was we hear from many user groups, whether they're within our community or other communities, that there's challenges in different municipalities trying to book field time or ice time or whatever the case may be. It was, I believe, a ray of sunshine to hear on the other end of the phone saying, "You're the customer, we're happy to serve," kind of being shared with that user group. So it's great to see that new use at the North Park. A few residents have mentioned to me, like, "Hey, there's football going on at the North Park. That's pretty cool, right?" So it's great to be able to have that partnership in place. And thanks for your work in facilitating their request.
Pardon me, through the chair to Mayor Watson. Yes, that's the Peterborough Wolverines. We're happy to have them here. We're open for business, so we're happy to have members of Peterborough County as a whole come and use our fields. So happy to accommodate them, and it's been working out very, very well. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right, one last question for me, Ash. After last year's rework on the Warsaw ball field behind the Legion, everything's worked out well there, and I believe it is getting used fairly regularly from what I see with vehicles over there.
Yes, through the chair. Yes, so with the upgrades to that field, yes, it is used weekly by Douro Minor Softball as well as various other groups. So happy to have that in operation in full swing, and is definitely getting used. All of our fields this year at any given time, basically after 7 p.m., maybe a little bit earlier than that. North Park, South Park, the Warsaw Legion field are all being very, very well used. So thank you for that. We'll just keep it going.
Excellent, thank you very much. All right, no other comments, questions. I'll entertain a motion to receive with thanks. Deputy Mayor Nelson, Mayor Watson, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Ash. All right, moving right along. Parks, Building and Planning. Well, your microphone works. You can just stay right there.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, committee members. The chair, before you again is my report 2026-05. Probably the thing that I've stay focused on the most right now is just the rollout of our discretionary sewage system maintenance inspection program. So we did mail out packages early in the spring, got them to the people and started to receive questionnaires back. We did have a few questionnaires that were outstanding. We did follow up with additional letters to the chair. I know that one of the concerns with the program was trying to reach out to people and make sure that there wasn't additional fees for people who hadn't received their questionnaires or hadn't received their mail yet. And I think we discussed at the time that we don't have a phone number until the questionnaire comes back. So kind of the best we have is additional mail out. So we've done that. And we've received most of our questionnaires now back after that second mail out. So we'll continue to try to follow up with the people that we haven't heard from. And depending on that quantity, it'll probably come to a door-to-door delivery of, we'll just slip a note into them that they have to get that done. So with those questionnaires back, and we do have a summer student now in the department, they are helping with a lot of the administration of this. So we make sure that we reach out to the people the week prior to their inspection and just talk about what's expected when we come on site. So i.e. the lids are exposed, not open, but just exposed, that the township can open them up. And ask if there's anything that we need to be made aware of, whether there's fences that restrict us or dogs. We ask them if there's a day that they prefer that we come, if they're going to be there or not. And then we try to schedule our appointments with them to meet our building official and their schedule. And then the week of, we also give them a follow-up call just as a reminder to let them know that we'll be out there and try to narrow that time down just a little bit on when we'll be available for them. And so with that, then we attend the site. And so far, I think that the inspections have gone relatively well. There's some that are just in great compliance. There's some that, obviously there's some concerns, potentially maybe a play structure placed on the corner of a sewage system, or maybe a deck been constructed a little too close, or sometimes it's also that the permitting before allowed something that maybe can't happen today. And so again, we just communicate that with them. And we haven't seen any complete failures yet. We've seen a few where like there's been tree root infiltration into the tank itself, and kind of plugging the exit or discharge, sorry. And so that's just stuff that the homeowner has to get to get dealt with, but they're happy because they hadn't looked in. And they're like, oh yes, yep, we got to get that dealt with. And so to be honest, we haven't had, to my knowledge, any negative real feedback. It's been they're happy that we're there. They're happy with the information that they've been given. And so we'll continue to kind of roll that program out and hope to see it take a successful step forward. Something that kind of isn't associated with the maintenance inspection program, but that came from the discussion around the program, is the sewage system outreach that we have Ontario Wastewater Association conducting some education programs. And so we did have 3 booked within the municipality. So we had a June 7th, a June 20th, and a July 30th. The June 7th one was canceled. It was outside the township's control, and it just had to do with another partner pulling out of their presentations for the organization that was hosting it. And so they canceled that kind of open house that was happening. So we do have the one that's coming up on June 20th. Again, our department administrator is in constant contact with both the parties who are hosting and UA who's attending. And so we don't foresee any issues right now. And that's coming up this weekend. Yes. Yeah. June 20th. Sorry, a time? Sorry, my apologies. 1 p.m. Thank you very much. Time is 1 p.m. And so again, and that's being hosted at the Crow's Landing Pavilion. And then we still have the one that happens on July 30th at Town Hall. And I know my understanding is we won't accept direction, or we don't take direction from council at this given time, but I do want to just maybe bring it to your attention that one of the thoughts we were having, and we can bring this back through some discussion, is the third education program is maybe watching to see what happens at 1 and 2 and see what that uptake is about. And then we can host the other one maybe as we get closer to Labor Day, if that works. But again, just kind of watching what that uptake is and seeing how that third one kind of fits in. And that's just, I'm open to comments on that. I just throwing that out there at this stage. Other than that, I would say that our permitting numbers, again, we're seeing an increase. So originally in our Q1, we saw an increase of up to 20%. We're at about 15% increase right now for permitting year over year. So compared to the 2025 year. And yeah, there's always lots going on, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think that gives a good look at what's kind of happening.
Thank you very much, Don. Comments, questions from the committee? Mayor Watson.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Mr. Helen and Don, I'm happy that you touched on the June 7th event information session that was canceled. I understand it was out of staff's control. I would like to see a third session being offered. I mean, we budgeted for that. I know it was nominal, the fee that we're paying OWA to come and present that information. Ideally, it would be within the lake community somehow. I don't know where or what those partnerships could look like in terms of a location. And ideally, I would think that we would want that to happen before, the seasonal residents leave again for the season. I think it's important to be able to do that outreach. Obviously, we're doing the one at the town hall, and I think that we had decided that we would be recording that one and possibly putting information on the website from the town hall one. Maybe I'm wrong from memory on that. But that's my personal thought, and maybe there's still an opportunity to partner with the organizers from June 7th to get a new date on or not. I don't know, but we committed as a council to do 3, and I think that we fundamentally should do 3 and try and keep that within the lake community that's most widely being impacted by the work. Those are my thoughts, and thanks for your report.
Thank you, Mayor Watson. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none?
Just
I
through the
guess-
chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Understood, and we'll definitely move forward with that then.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion. Thanks from Mayor Watson, Councillor Johnson. All in favor? Carried. Thanks very much, Don. All right, we're doing not too bad here. Finance, Stacy, you're up next. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I just want to touch on an update from finance. So overall, my report is pretty much self-explanatory. So there are only a couple items that I would like to speak to. Under major initiatives and compliance update, I would like to add some context on asset management, as this remains one of the township's most important long-term financial planning tools. Asset management is not just a reporting requirement, it is the foundation for understanding what infrastructure we own, what condition it is in, when it will need rehabilitation or replacement, and how those future costs will be funded. The key challenges identified in the 2026 asset management update last night are, first and foremost, there is a growing infrastructure funding gap. My goodness. The township's updated analysis shows that an annual capital needs are now approximately $3.2 million, while substantial annual funding remains at about $1.3 million, leaving an annual shortfall of about $1.9 million. This means that the township is not currently funding asset renewal at a sustainable level. Second, there will be significant replacement pressure over the next 8 years. This is because a large share of township's assets are expected to require replacement within this time. This creates ongoing pressure on capital budgets, reserve planning, and project prioritization. Third, we are facing rising replacement costs. I think we've seen that recently with the building at $3 million and now $12 million. The total replacement value of township assets has increased from about 65.3 million to 74.7 million. And this is not with the complete analysis. This is just what it's showing with the partial analysis that we've done so far. This reflects inflation, updated costing, and better asset information, but also means that infrastructure challenge is becoming more expensive to address. Next, there is incomplete condition data in some of the asset classes. While data quality is improved, several asset categories still rely partly on age-based assumptions rather than full condition assessments. This limits precision of life cycle planning and long-term forecasting. Staff are acting on this concern and will make improvements over the next year. Lastly, we recognize that there are staff capacity constraints over all departments, as asset management is a township-wide responsibility. So asset management work is progressing, but is being completed alongside regular operational responsibilities. This affects how quickly the township can improve data, complete assessments, and refine long-term plans. Overall, the township's key challenges are affordability, timing, and information. We are facing a larger funding gap. More assets are approaching replacement and rising costs and some remaining data limitations. And next, I just want to provide an update on the ERP system replacement. So the NFRP was put on bids untendered on June 11th for the ERP system. So the county is doing that. And I just want to mention, because it came up as a finance system this morning quite a bit, it's not just a finance system. It's intended to handle processes from all departments, and it just funnels all information to the finance department. So it makes it incredibly important to us, but it is definitely a corporate system. And that's all I would like to say. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
Thank you very much, Stacy. Mayor Watson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Ms. Grenier, Stacey, I'm curious about, first of all, I want to say I'm pleased, I'm ecstatic to see that the RFP has been issued for the financial audit work for
Oh, yeah.
the next round of that. I know that's something that we've been wanting to move forward with for some time. When it comes to the asset management plan specifically, and I know the report was before council last night, the question that comes up in my mind often is, how did we arrive at the number of the value of that asset, the replacement value of that asset, to be able to say this is the gap? And I know that this has come up at county council, where for some time the county has been saving for that financial gap for asset replacement. And then, you know, new eyes on it, new consultants, some new number formulas results in that, you know, really being worth less than what it had been stated it was worth. So to me, it seems a little subjective, particularly when you look at traditional asset, you know, as a homeowner, right? Like, you know, the replacement of my home versus the replacement, like, let's continue the life of that by replacing the roof or the windows, or, you know, can you, I know we don't have a ton of time to go through this, but help us understand how we arrive at what that total replacement value is of those assets? Because I think my fear is we're saving for a day of, you know, total failure of an asset or multiple assets, when in fact there's lots that we can do to extend the life of those assets, and replacement costs are different, recognizing that building costs have gone up. And I think that that's a fair point. So a lot to unpack there, but perhaps you can help.
I can. So we used as many external reports as we can. So as we get the updated OSIM reports on every other year, that gets entered into our asset management plan. We just had a roads need study that was updated since the last asset management plan. So those numbers are now in our plan, or that information is in our plan already. We're working on the building assessment review. Once that's complete, that will go into our plan. And then the remaining is really equipment and vehicles. And that's what's going to happen with staff. That's what's going to take a year. We're going to assess our current equipment and value. Look at our life cycle costs. Like, life cycle costing is coming out more with the 2005 AMP update. So the 2005 AMP update we hope to present in September. And then staff will be more involved with tracking life cycle costing, which includes all your refurbishments. And refurbishments are included a lot in roads, because we do refurbishment, and then replacement. So I think that sort of concept is going to be applied to all assets, where it can be applied to all assets, you know, more maybe sort of in the building aspect, because that's an area where we're not strong at right now. And that's what I can say on that for now. I hope that answers your question.
Through the chair, it certainly does provide some clarity around it, because I think, you know, the math, the numbers don't add up. We all, like, this isn't just a Douro-Dummer thing. Also, we all know that across the province, municipalities have gone through or are in the midst of going through this, and there's a massive infrastructure funding gap. You know, the province has asked that we go through this process, but there's been no discussion around the now what and what our responsibility is to necessarily have the money in the bank, so to speak, because it's, you know, when there is a failure, it's not going to be a total failure. It's going to be gradual failure over time. So how do we plan and prepare for that? So I think if there's any work that this council can do to support staff at the provincial level, in terms of additional advocacy or lobbying to ensure that there is more future infrastructure funding, and that this, you know, isn't burdened by ratepayers across the province. Yeah, I'm certain this council will be willing to do that. We would just need to take a cue from you to steer us in the right direction.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Johnson.
Just, thanks through the chair, thanks for the report. I that doesn't get me really excited. I look at this year after year, and a lot of these things, is kind of, the way I look at it, is a wish list. Now, the thing is, yes, we know things have to be, you know, get rid of them where there's some value left or whatever be. But a lot of things sometimes doesn't need to be done when they're done. So therefore, why I'm saying that is that, yeah, we have a problem that we have to slowly address. But I do feel that that doesn't make me jump up and yell, you know. That's where it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy, just a quick kind of going over for the last little while here. Staff, council, we've been hit pretty hard on why we're behind in the 2024, 2025 and stuff like that. And for people that actually follow the meetings, that has been explained out more than once over the last month or two, whatever, you know. And I remember saying myself, we had a treasurer here that fell sick, and we were trying to get by with temporaries, you know, that yes, they can do the job, but it's not the same as having the full-time job that you can make a full commitment to what the township needs, while you're probably still looking for a full-time job. And unfortunately, that treasurer did pass away, and God bless her soul. But in the meantime, we're trying to play catch up, and things did get behind. And people keep saying, well, you know, that they have all these excuses and they only know half truths, kind of like that, which really drives me crazy. And Mayor Watson put a notice of motion forward to get things caught up, and council supported anything you needed to do that, which is absolutely fantastic. Every time we turn around, we're getting another report here, but you know, we're making headway, and I really do appreciate that. And I just wanted to bring that forward. And for anybody that watches these meetings, yeah, if I can't believe when people come in here and just start yelling and screaming at us for something that we've already explained 3 times. So I just want to bring that forward, and thank you. Thank you. Motion to receive with thanks from Councillor Johnson, and that's seconded by Councillor Landsman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Perfect. Moving right along. Clerk's Department. Martina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Sorry, too many things in front of me here. So my report's before you. I just wanted to highlight a few items from the report that I think may be of interest to the public and council. So one of the items we always include in our reports is the amount of FOIs we currently have. So in my report, I did say we have 14. We are now up to 17. The other thing we've been working on, as you can imagine, is the upcoming election. So we have had a few applicants come in and submit their nominations. If people are interested in who has brought forward a nomination, they are on our website, and they're also posted in the office on the bulletin board. And folks can also call the office if they're not sure where to find that information. We're happy to help. We do have paper nomination packages in the office, and we're always happy to give those out. We also have them on our website, and we do encourage folks to call or book an appointment if they have questions about the nomination packages, and to definitely book an appointment if they wish to submit their nomination, because it does take a bit of time, and we want to make sure that we have the time available to focus on them and give them the support they need. Just in marriages, we always like to talk about our wedding services and marriage licenses. It's always a happy occasion. We were just requested to do a ceremony in early July, so we've got that on the books. And we continue to get requests for licenses and lots of inquiries. So that's always a great part of our job. We really enjoy that. Just about records management, phase 2 of our move to our digital records management program is almost done. The bulk of the heavy lifting was actually done this week, and so thanks to staff for their time on that. And it will be rolled out by the end of next week. We have the implementation and the training for staff. So that will finish phase 2 of our digital program, and then we'll be moving to phase 3 next year. Dawn didn't mention it, but I wanted to just bring it up. That as the clerk's department and the building department both have summer students, we're working together to tackle some historic documents that have never been filed. So in the past, for whatever reason, drawings from building permits, we're talking like pre 1985, were divorced from the property files and were kept separate. So we're now trying to go through those drawings to find out what property they belong to, the era of that property, and then if the documents are in relatively good shape and we can fold them, we're putting them in the paper property files. If they're in poor shape, we're scanning them and we're creating digital copies in a database of those. So it's really great to see us doing that. We've talked about it for a long time, and it's wonderful to have the capacity to actually put it into action. Just on staffing, we do have summer students this year. We were very lucky to receive funding through the Federal Summer Jobs Program. Yeah, just confirming with Stacy. And so we do have summer students in the office. We've been so lucky. They're all local students. They've been excellent, and we're super happy to have them. And just on my final note is that the Canada Parade is coming up on Canada Day, July 1st at Douro. I believe the group up of the parade is at 2 p.m. in Douro. We do have a slightly amended route, so please check that out. It's going to go from halfway between County Road 4 and County Road 8, heading south, just to make it a little shorter and more welcoming for all of the folks that want to participate. That's on our website now. It's on social media. And so we hope to see everyone at that event. And I'll take any questions or comments.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions from the committee? Oh, wow. Seeing none. Thank you very much. The Canada Day one, I didn't know whether Councillor Johnson might want to comment on that. I know he did the other, or he wanted to at the council meeting last night, and the fact that there will be some goodies afterwards, because a lot of people don't know that.
Well, that's right. Thanks to the chair. Thanks, Martine, for mentioning that. But yes, we do have cake and ice cream and drinks and that at the end of the parade in front of the Douro Hall. So stick around and enjoy that too. And like Martina said, the more the better, and it makes it look better to have a nice parade. And so if you can show up, we'd like you to show up. It's only a matter of a couple hours at the most. I think weather permitting too.
Excellent. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a question, Ray, is, does the floats need to be registered beforehand, or does people need to sign up
Through
for
the
that?
chair, they don't have to be registered ahead of time, but we will be having somebody go down through the parade participants and get them signed up, just their name and that. So if they do it ahead of time, they can, but they can do it right on the spot.
Okay, thanks for that.
Seeing no other comments, questions, I'll entertain a motion to receive with thanks. Mayor Watson. Councillor Landsman, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And last but not least, CAO Davis, you're on, sir.
Through the chair to the members of council, I think my report is generally self-explanatory. I have a couple of highlights I want to bring forward for your reference or knowledge. This has been a particularly heavy period of work out of my office, which culminated in 2 large projects over the last 5 days. So first and foremost, we completed the procurement process for the Public Works Fire Hall Development Project that went to council last Thursday on June 11th with a successful outcome. And then we had presentations today for service delivery review of the building planning, economic development sections of the organization. Both of those projects were out under the banner of I recognize that staff across the corporation have worked on all of those, but realistically, I'm the one that coordinated both of those projects. Couple of other things I want to highlight. We have a successful land options agreement for the township brownfield township land near Halls Glen land transfer station. And there are a couple of other activities that have been deferred just based on work capacity. So we've done some work. One of the challenges we have is we don't have any way to manage or track or get on top of some of our internal maintenance challenges that we have in this organization, in this corporation. And so we're working on an appropriate, I think we've discovered an appropriate management system that would help with some work orders and help us with the tracking and understanding, which will feed into some asset management issues as well. Based on the capacity of our staff, that we've deferred that to the fourth quarter of this year. We'll see something closer to the election. And then secondarily, I know I've highlighted this in a number of my previous reports. We did some work around the IT portion of the organization, but one of the areas or challenges we have is our township phone system is extremely antiquated. No longer, they're no longer making the hardware. It, and so or supporting said hardware, and so it needs to be desperately replaced. Now with some of those bigger projects completed and onboarding of an IT consultant, we're going to move forward with that in the next quarter of this year. So there should be a report coming probably in August related to that for your review. And then I just talk about some of the regional things that we've done. So you're all aware, not this most recent meeting of council, but the meeting previous, we also had a draft community safety and well-being plan come forward for council's review. That's a Peterborough County initiative that we participated on. So just wanted to draw your attention to some of those things. And then I just want to talk a little bit about priorities as we move forward for the balance of this next quarter from the CIO's office. There's a number of items that we will be bringing forward as well. The work doesn't stop. I know most of you were sort of turning to election, but so I brought forward a council compensation bylaw for your review and approval, which was approved earlier in the spring. We will be bringing forward a staff compensation is the next thing that follows. It needs to be completed prior to September, and so we'll be bringing that forward in August for your review. We will include some new elements to it. Some of them that we've taken in advance with our work through service delivery review. We're going to talk about some staff codes of conduct, et cetera, and aligning some of that stuff so that's all sort of together. I'd also like to a couple of other, we have 3 other things that we will be bringing forward. Some of them are on our work plan, some of them are on the council plan. So first and foremost, we will report to council, which will come in August, related to amending the community grant program that we did last year and the collection of the fees for the empties at the land transfer station. And so we're going to have some policy come forward with that in August, as we're responsible to. We also owe this council in this term an update on the lime kiln project. So I was hopeful that I would have it prepared for today's discussion. Unfortunately, first of all, the agendas of late have been particularly heavy. Some major projects are coming to the conclusion, but my commitment is to bring that to the August committee of the whole to have a more robust discussion of where we're at with lime kiln and what the future of that looks like. And then finally, last year I provided in late spring an update on the outcomes of the entire organization's service delivery review that was done some time ago, and our strategic plan and how we're tracking against that. And my commitment to this council is that I will bring an update on that in August as well, as sort of a final update prior to the election, so you're aware of where we're at. That's sort of where we're heading, or where my division of the organization is heading between now and the end of the summer. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions from the committee? Councillor Lensman.
Through the chair, just one question. Did you say the committee of the whole meeting is in August? Oh, I thought it was in September. I'm sorry.
August 17th. So this is the 17th of June, isn't it? So it's actually 2 exact months from now. we'll be having this conversation.
Any other comments, questions? Then I will accept the motion to receive with thanks. Deputy Mayor Nelson and Councillor Johnson, all in favor? Carried. Perfect. Thank you very much. That's concludes our staff updates and stuff we got. As always, very much appreciated. Gives us time to discuss anything we need. And every couple of months seems to work very well. Moving on to other business. Sorry, Martina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for indulging me. I just realized I forgot to mention one staffing update in my report. As everyone knows, our legislative service assistant is on leave. And during that time, we needed someone to fill in. So that person has been hired. Her name is Adrian. If you see her around the office, she's very nice. Please introduce yourself. She's also local, and we're very happy to have her with us. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
Excellent. And welcome, Adrian. I think I've already said that to you, but welcome anyhow. All right, moving right along to other business. Councillor Landsman, you have a section on here. Did you want to take it away and give us an update on that and let us have a little discussion on it?
Thank you. And what it basically is looking for is the line of, or the chain of command, because I think there are a number of occasions where the loop is not closed. And I need clarity on it. And if I need clarity, perhaps there are others that do as well. Basically, I gave you two examples where, as we all know, council cannot direct anybody to do anything. Okay? But if you go along and you help a ratepayer as far as you can, and then it's referred to council or to staff, and then it's dropped. You don't know whether it's been continued, finished, canceled, even started, or whatever. And that's happened in a couple of occasions. And I just like to know what proper protocol is, or what other people feel.
Perfect. Thank you. I will open up the floor for comments, whether it be from the committee or from staff. Anyone want to start or? All right. Okay,
Well,
go
through
ahead.
the chair, like, I do feel that, calling our CAO in the past, in the past, we were able to talk to all the different division, supervisors, but in the past, they were told to go tell the CAO. So it depends how critical the situation is. I know myself, I will take in my own hands and make a phone call, compared to wait for the CAO to comment on it, even though now I'm programmed to do that. But anyways, that's the way I see it, is that we supposed to go through the CAO but if you can't get them and it's an emergency, I'm not gonna wait. That's the way I feel.
Deputy Mayor?
I feel like Mr. In Between here. Anyways, through the chair, I also, I guess I can echo a little, some of Sheila's concerns, and again, I can't give you exact. It was a little while, or I had to come back and ask. I feel that if it's in writing or it's in, if it's an email, it should be responded to through our CAO, if the question, or through our clerk, one of the two, the answer can come back to us. But I feel no fault. I'm not putting any blame on staff on this, but I do believe that sometimes the loop could be closed, that we just know what transpired, not to know any of the business about some of it, but whether it's been, if it's been solved, that's maybe all we need, is just a quick email to say that the complaint or what has come to us has been solved, and I'm okay with that. I think that that would be, uh, we're just asking that if staff could close that loop for us. That's my comments. Thanks.
Councillor Lensman.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm not blaming anybody, as Harold said, it's not addressed at anybody. I think it's just something where the loop got left open. So for instance, if somebody, I've been discussing something with the ratepayer and I can't give them a final answer of what they can or can't do, do I report that to the particular department or to the CAO or who?
Okay, thank you for that. And I'm just gonna throw my little comment in before you, CAO, if you don't mind. And so the way I see this, okay, so you get a request from a ratepayer saying, hey, I need to know this stuff like that. You may know the answer and you can give them an answer because of your experience on council and what we've dealt with before. There's other times that, hey, I can give you a partial answer, but I'm not sure I'm gonna have to get the office to clarify and give me a concise answer or give you a concise answer what goes on. So you forward that on to staff. But I think where you're getting at this is you don't know whether it's been followed up back to that person to give them an answer or not, because you haven't talked to them and you haven't talked to staff. So when they get back to that person, whether it be by phone call, whether it be by email, whatever, all council, I believe, wants is a quick email saying, hey, your request with Joe wanting to know about the 10th line of Dummer. We have contacted them and we're looking after it and thank you very much for bringing it forward. That's basically all we want to know, that you know that they have been contacted, whatever, and you were the one that brought it up, so you should know that it's either been dealt with or it's in the process of being dealt with. Is that kind of where you're at with this? That's kind of where I see and what I would love to see. And I know sometimes it gets a little cumbersome. Sometimes they're just frivolous little things, but those frivolous things sometimes turn into big things. So I do appreciate you bringing this forward.
Through the chair to the members of council. So I have a couple of comments related to that. So first of all, I want to discuss very briefly how we approach when you get calls or comments from the community, and channeling all those through either the clerk's office or the CAO's office, the deputy CAO's office or the CAO's office. The reality is, yes, our divisions are getting busier by the day. I'm not the kind of person that has to have I'd like to know when you have an issue with one of the divisions, but I'm also not opposed to, if you have a particular public works issue, if you're putting that into an email and you want to ask the manager of public works directly what that issue is, because the reality is, if it's a technical question, I don't have that answer generally. So I'm fine with, as long as we're informed, our offices are informed that you're asking those questions, so that we can then be informed of what the response is. So if you were to call me and say, how do we deal with that, I at least know that it came in. Would be the sort of my request to this group of council. On occasions where you have a direct issue, and we always want you to refer people through the formal, if it's a complaint. In particular, we would like you to go through the formal complaint process so that we can track those complaints, because it's very difficult sometimes for us to understand, whether this is, part of the reason why we try to track complaints, so we can see if we have ongoing problems, what those problems look like, how we manage or deal with them. Thirdly, I think my commitment to this council moving forward will be to ensure that you are, if you have a resident brings forward an issue, our commitment as staff should be, and through my office will be, that we make sure that every single one of them, once those issues have been managed or dealt with, you get an update as to, you may not get the exact details for various reasons, whether they're there's just reasons why we just maybe not give you every sort of the minutia of everything, but we'll certainly let you know that we've managed that issue, or that person has been contacted. I'm fine to do that.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And in my mind, like, I don't even, like, some instances take a long time to resolve. So I don't necessarily want to wait till the end of that, because it could be 6, 12 months down the road, kind of like that, before it gets resolved. All I need to know from staff is, hey, I've contacted Joe on your behalf and the township is dealing with it. At least I know then that that staff has contacted the person that asked the question or has the problem or put in the complaint. And then I'm good. That's all I want to know, is that make absolutely sure that I'm not leaving that client or that ratepayer in limbo. So that's perfect as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, any other comments, questions? I forget I'm the chair sometimes. And seeing none, any final comments, Councillor Landsman, or are you satisfied with how this has transpired and kind of got your point across?
I'm working on it. Yes, I'm figuring it out in my mind, but thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, do I need a motion just to receive that? Okay, motion to receive that with thanks. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Johnson, all in favor? Perfect, thank you very much. Well, it looks like we're wrapping things up quite nicely here. It's a little later than usual, but that's, you know, when you have a delegation ahead of time, that was a good delegation, so very happy with that. So new business to be requested for next meeting, and I'll just let the clerk say how soon before the next meeting she would like anything in writing. By August 12th, if anyone has any submissions to put in for the next meeting. We have no closed session, so we don't have to rise from closed session, and we have no matters arising from. So unless there's any, I know it's not on here, announcements for anything like that, like we said, there's a candidate parade coming up. I'm hoping everyone will be able to attend that and enjoy it. And other than that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry, Mayor Watson.
Chair, thank you. Just through you under announcements, this council is aware, but anybody who's following along last night, we weren't able to get through the entire agenda. And I believe we are calling a special council meeting to finalize the items, receive and make decisions on the remaining items on that agenda for Monday morning. I expect it'll be a brief meeting because there were only a few small items remaining, but I just wanted to flag that for anybody because it is a little atypical that we would carry forward a council meeting from one week to the next and hold it on a Monday morning. But we do have some legislative requirements to meet deadlines to receive a particular report.
And that's Monday morning at 9. And Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify my earlier comment, so the next committee of the whole meeting is August 12th. And so the deadline to submit any items for that would be August 5th.
Perfect. All right. If there's no other comments, questions by the committee, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Mayor Watson, Councillor Johnson, all in favor? And that's at 12:42.